back with another Flesh and Blood video. Today, we're going to talk about players and collectors within the game. So, this has been brought on by a recent YouTube trend where the title was "It's time to not be quiet about Flesh and Blood." You might have seen the video that I posted, and I have created a playlist. It was started by Jonah on Discord, Jonathan on Facebook, and there's, last time I checked, around 12 videos added to the playlist. The intent was purely for people to showcase their collection and talk about their love of Flesh and Blood, maybe tell some stories about how they got into the game, how they acquired certain things that they love about the game. And unfortunately, as always, things like Reddit pop up, and certain people have not been happy. So I'm going to read some comments on Reddit, and they're going to be posted above here on my head, so you can have a little bit of a read. And then we're going to kind of talk about the main topic of this video, which is collectors and players. So a couple of my favourite ones is, the message is, I want to make money on Flesh and Blood cards, so I'm going to tell everybody how good it is so I can sell them. That was a good one. We'll go through a couple of other ones. You'll get to see these. There will be a link for it as well, so you can see below. But I'll post it again because the mod deleted my comment. This feels like a coordinated ploy to inflate the dollar value of cards. Interesting. There's some lengthy ones, but I'm not going to read those. It feels coordinated. A bit of a red flag to me, as some of the videos were made by judges. So perhaps judges are an issue. Feels like a ploy to show the collectability, but they say, get it like it's crypto. Another interesting one. This is by Sheep Costume Seller, by the way. Some of the names on here are quite interesting. Obviously, it is Reddit, so most people that generally are active on Reddit generally are, they don't really have much of a life. That's why they're on Reddit. But yeah, this Sheep Costume Seller, some of them are really long. It's pretty much cope in the collecting market right now. Investors have moved out of Fab and into one of One Piece and Lorcana. LSS giving away gold foils like candy on Halloween. I've not seen LSS giving away gold foils. I still believe you need to do well at tournaments, events to win gold foils. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe LSS are literally giving them away. If you're watching this, anyone from LSS, I'll take a few hundred gold foils. The Fab market has moved towards players instead of collectors. These tendy flippers banked on the exponential growth of the Fab player base early on, and it didn't pan out. Much like Blitz, early investors have long since been outlived. Their usefulness has been cast aside by LSS. So here's a couple of interesting comments, because I kind of wanted to bring this up. There's some seriousness and non-seriousness to this video, as there always is with a lot of content that I do. But I remember when I first got into Flesh and Blood, and I was purely a collector. This was before I played Flesh and Blood. I just collected it. I made content on it. I did openings and such. And I just wanted to collect the cards that I thought looked really cool. So things like the Tunics, the Fableds, some of the legendary pieces like Mask and Momentum, and some of the promos that I thought were really nice. And then, as I got in more into the game, I thought, okay, well, I grade cards in other card games, so maybe I should grade some cards in Flesh and Blood. And I remember posting it because I was just excited to show my cards, as a lot of people are when they share their collections. Pretty standard thing, like any walk of life. I just wanted to share my collection with other people. And I remember getting a lot of backlash from people saying, why are you grading cards? Now, there's a few things to point out here, because grading early on in Fab was shunned and looked down upon by a lot of players. So, one, Flesh and Blood is one of the very few, if not the only, card game where you can play with graded cards. So, again, if, LSS and Flesh and Blood didn't intend for cards to be graded, this wouldn't be the case. Not only that, but they are partnered with PCG, and all of their gold foils are pre-graded by PCG now. They weren't back then, but they are now. Again, another ties within, grading. And gold foils are, we know how many copies are because it's posted on Collectors Center. Everything is transparent. Flesh and Blood are very transparent with things, which is something that has been adored by a lot of collectors and players alike as well, because people can see, okay, I've won this gold foil, I'm going to open it, and I pulled this. There's only 80 copies of this, or 40 copies of this, or 120 copies of this, right? And I think that transparency is something that's really important for the growth of the game, and going forward, it means that people can trust LSS and Flesh and Blood with these specific cards. I know we've had a little bit of a rocky journey over the years, but I feel like collectors are very happy with the game right now. But I have started to see a lot of players aren't. The meta changes. Each set comes out and obviously offers something different. If your hero isn't getting support in the next set, or the current set, then I can understand that. But I'm not really sure what the hate is on collectors. I just don't see the point of it. Don't really understand it. I had it early on, and I feel like it sort of simmered down a little bit, and I feel like we had unity here. I think everyone was just enjoying the game of Flesh and Blood and just loving it. But seeing some of these comments and some of the bits that I've seen on other groups as well in Facebook and stuff has kind of reminded me that there is a divide sometimes, only created by certain individuals. It sounds bitterness. I think a lot of it's just bitterness, to be honest. Like anything in life, right? It's all projection. So a lot of them are projecting, right? Collectors, have been in the game since day one, as players have. Early on, it was very collector and investor driven. I understand that. And then we kind of moved towards a more player driven market. But at the end of the day, a lot of these players, when they're doing events, they're they're getting promos for participation. A lot of them sell them to collectors. Gold foils, a lot of them sell them to collectors. Things like their sponsorship for a lot of these events, a lot of collectors are buying them. They're buying the playmat, they're buying the promos, and it means that these players basically, can basically play for free because everything else has already been paid for prior to the event. So collectors are extremely important in this game. I think either or. I've done videos on this in the past. I think you need both. You need both. You need players and collectors in the game for it to survive. I know without players, the game would die. But I also know without collectors, the game would die. And I think collectors understand that, but I feel like players don't sometimes. Not all players. I'm not going to cast a brush. I know most of the UK player base I buy from and I sell to. I meet at events, I play with. And everyone's been really lovely and supporting. And, everyone just wants to talk about and share the love of the game. But, some of these people that we've seen comments online for clearly don't share that same love. I've seen some people seem to be getting bored of the game, and that's fine. I think with anything in life, sometimes you do need to take a little bit of a step back, refresh, and kind of come back to it. Because I feel like being involved in a game where, the meta doesn't change as often as other games. We're only getting 3 sets a year. We've obviously also got these armory decks coming out, and we've got other products that Flesh and Blood are releasing, but not to the extent that other games do. But the main point of this video really was just to talk about collectors versus players, because I did a video before and it went really well. It engaged a lot of people, and that's the point of this, right? I want to engage a lot of people. I want to see people's comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with some of these comments? If you do, absolutely, that's fine. That's the point of it, right? There should be a debate. But I feel like too many people these days are so cynical, and there's always got to be a deeper meaning to things. There's always got to be a conspiracy, tinfoil hats on, something's happening. But sometimes there isn't. Sometimes you can just enjoy the game. Look, I've been in the game now for 4 years. I came in Crucible of War First Edition. I've collected, I've invested, I've played, I've made content, I've opened, I've bought almost 200 collections now. That's a lot of collections. I don't know how many active players are in the UK. I don't know how many players have ever played in the UK, but I've bought a fair percentage of collections off people. Some of them are people just wanting to, reduce their collection. And some people have just got out the game completely to move on to other games, right? But Flesh and Blood is a very unique game because compared to a lot of games, it is very player driven, and that absolutely makes sense. The organized play that Flesh and Blood, LSS put on is amazing. The whole circuit is ridiculous. Probably one of the best systems out there, if not the best. It is the premier competitive card game, right? But if you remove either or of those out of the equation, the game dies. And LSS, the comment about LSS have cast them aside, is that doesn't make any sense because if you've watched any of the interviews of James White or any of the staff of LSS, if you go to events, if you actually see what they're doing, a lot of it is, for collectors and players as well. There's that fine line, right, where you've got to please collectors but also please players. You shouldn't pander to either, honestly, in a game. I think it's fair 50-50. And there's going to be times or sets where it was more player driven and more focused. And I think LSS for a couple of years did generally focus on the players. And that's why a lot of collectors did leave. And sure, there were some people early on with ill intent. They've all left now, to be honest, because, we went through the Fab Winter and stuff where people, couldn't make their free tendies, flip their tendies. But now we're in a point where I feel that the game is in a really good place. The confidence in the game from players and collectors should be really high. We've had heavy hitters, which was amazing. Misfail was absolutely mind-blowing. And now we've got Rosetta, which is, a return to Tales of Aria. So, we've had a second Monarch set, and we've now had a return. We're having a return to Tales of Aria with a lot of these talents, elementals, which is awesome. I mean, from what we've seen from the cards already, they look absolutely amazing. So I'm really excited to see what happens from this. I'll admit that I don't play as much as I usually do. I'm actually filming this about an hour before I'm going to go to my armory and play Fab. I haven't played since UK Games Expo, which was about a month ago. So it'll be interesting. And that wasn't even CC. That was just a sealed event. And Blitz I played. So I'm excited to play. But the point is, I feel like this game needs everybody to be a collective. Again, this game is a niche. I've said it before, and I'll always say it. This isn't ever going to be a top 3 TCG. It'll always be more of a niche. Now, if the game expands more, and I'm not talking about the brand expands more, not just the game, because a TCG only will never get to that level. All these other companies that Fab is competing with are giant IPs, and Fab isn't that. But we've started seeing merch now, which is great, and the merch they do as well is good quality. I've enjoyed what I've got so far already. There could be potential for more things in the future. I'd like to see a lore book in paper, paperback, not the hardback, because obviously, that's been printed already. But if we could do a paperback version of it, that would be amazing. Maybe a graphic novel series, something else to kind of bring people into the game of Flesh and Blood. But we need to be a collective for this game to grow. There's no point bickering amongst ourselves. Both sides of this are valuable to this game. And all we want to do is see, Fab have a successful story, because LSS deserve it, James White deserves it, and as fans of the game, I feel like we deserve it as well. There's a lot of negativity around TCGs sometimes when people are talking about, investors and whales and collectors and games coming up and games dying, and that's part of the game, right? That's part of it. But I feel like Flesh and Blood, is almost an underdog story. New Zealand based. It came from nothing. The team had obviously experience within TCGs, but it started off, as a small company, and it's growing and growing. One of the fastest growing companies in New Zealand history, if not the fastest, I believe. And the story speaks for itself. So I feel like, comments like this on Reddit, they wouldn't upset most people or bother people, but I feel like it's something worth talking about, because I feel like, again, as I said, people are very cynical. I think people look too much into things, when there isn't always a higher, deeper meaning for things. Sometimes things can be as black and white as they are, but just enjoy the game. Honestly, I think whether you're a player or a collector, just enjoy the game. Enjoy the journey that we're on, right? Because things will change. There could be a time in the future where LSS sell off to a big company, and things aren't the same as they are now. It never is. The early years of things are always the best, because that's when they're a bit more experimental, but they're also a little bit more in touch with the fans. And I know from past experiences with companies, things aren't ever like they were in the early years. So we're coming up to 5 years in October since WTR came out, and just enjoy it, honestly. And thank you all for watching. As always, please comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the notification button and check the links in the description. There'll be the Reddit here if you want to have a little read through some of the comments. But I feel like pointing out some of this negativity sometimes is needed. And as always, have a great day.